Welcome, those of you here on planet Earth. My name is Patrick Packman-Bettis. You've joined us on Life and In Between podcast, and today we are opening our minds. We are digging into the journey that is humanity. And let me tell you, when your neighbors post on your HOA page that they're giving away a free 2 pound bag of protein powder, take it because you never know how amazing it can be. It's just about new experiences. This is all vegan powder and it's pretty good. Vanilla. So shout out to the Mad Monkey protein blend, whatever it's called. But enough about that and protein. Today we have a very special guest. And to introduce our special guest, let me introduce you to our wonderful founder, pretty much, the Jefe, Diana Gonzalez.
Thank you so much, Patrick. And I want to thank our listeners that have tuned in today. Today we have a very special guest today. And I wanted our guest, Cindy Smock, is a medium and author of Pink Lion, a medium's journey through grief, awakening, and the unseen. Now, Cindy's going to help us explore what it means to trust and show up with the world when the world goes quiet and when we have questions of when our loved ones pass on. But I am not going to tell her story. She's here to tell her story, her journey, and the messages that are in between our worlds. Without further ado, thank you so much, Cindy, for joining us today.
Oh, you are so welcome. Hi, Patrick. Hi, Diana. Thank you for having me on to share my story because it's not probably dissimilar to many of your viewers and even yourselves. I just listened differently than maybe other people did. And it's because of my experiences throughout my life. My life started in trauma. And so my father was a Vietnam War veteran and had PTSD, but back in the 70s when I was born, they didn't treat it. They didn't even have really the name for it. No one talked about it. Everything was kept in a closet, so to speak, and not spoken about. And so those feelings had to come out somehow, and they were taken out on the family, as children in particular. And so it was in those moments where fear became, a known commodity in our home. I learned to read the room. I learned to read energy before even noticing the body language, right? It was the energy I would pick up on. However, I didn't know that's what it was. And of course, I didn't understand it as such a child. I mean, children don't really understand that. The other thing that would happen is I would see what we consider ghosts, periodically throughout my life in those two homes that I grew up in. So that was kind of interesting. But I didn't have language for light beings at such an early age, only that they were there and they were present. But I wasn't scared. I just saw them and they were in my presence. So that was a couple of things that happened, but it wasn't until my father-in-law got sick in 2024 did all of this crack everything open for me. It was in the fall of 2023 where he started to kind of take a turn for the worst, and he had glioblastoma, which is brain cancer, in case anyone doesn't know what that is. And it started affecting his mobility and ability to walk. And so we had to help my mother-in-law by going and helping her 1 week at a time. Each one of us kids had to go help her 1 week at a time with my father-in-law's care, which included lifting him up and putting him in chairs, helping him get dressed, showering, bathroom breaks, all that stuff, because she couldn't do it herself. And as we would transition in and out, I became the last one there in the spring of 2024 with her. During that week, there was a lot of things that happened between he and I that I didn't quite understand at the time. For example, have you ever looked into somebody's eyes before they pass? Either one of you?
When they're close to passing.
Weeks before, weeks
Yes,
before they
yes,
pass.
yes,
Have you
I have.
ever looked into their eyes?
Mhm.
Patrick, have you? No. there was a deep knowing or something deep, like a soul to soul connection that I never noticed there before. I mean, I've been around my father-in-law for many years. I mean, a decade or longer, and I never noticed it before. But when he looked into my eyes, it was like this connect. I don't know. It was I call it my activation moment because it was like it kind of got me, right? Where I opened up somehow. And when he passed, it was just a few weeks after I had left. And it was right before Easter weekend that year. Everything, everything was fine up until Mother's Day weekend. And my mother-in-law had asked me to take her from Vegas to Omaha. Sorry, my brain's all over the place. From Vegas to Omaha. And she wanted me to take her back because they were snowbirds. So they stayed half the year in Vegas, half the year in Omaha. She needed me to drive her back. So as I was packing and getting ready for that trip, I was in my closet and I was folding up laundry and I literally heard in his voice in my mind, turn around. Now, has that ever happened to either of you after a loved one's passed, where you hear them in your own mind in their voice?
I feel them. I've had feeling, like
Okay.
the feeling, the sense, but not actual vocal, no.
Yeah, I thought I was going crazy, you know, because you think, is grief kind of taking over? Am I imagining it? Like what's going on? Patrick, I was focused on Diana, but didn't notice your answer. Have you had that happen to you before? Oh, his
You're
audio.
on mute.
You're muted.
You're muted.
Sorry, I'm taking notes right here as well. Was it audible or like in the spirit type?
It was like in my mind. I don't know how to explain it. You know how you think of someone and you can hear them like in your memory recall.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay. It was like that. So I could hear his voice in my mind is how I explain it. Um, and he said, turn around. And when I turned around, I noticed the softball and the beanie cap on the shelving. Like I literally just turned around with no expectation, not realizing my husband had placed it up on the shelf. I know I'm pausing visually, but you guys can hear me audibly, right? Okay. Um, and then I felt his presence kind of wash over me, which gave me such a warm feeling. But even still, I thought, oh, you're going crazy.
Mm.
This can't be real. I have a very rational brain, and I could not square that in my mind. So I kept it to myself. So, Patrick, you haven't experienced that, or you're not sure, really?
Not with like a deceased person or a friend. I will say growing up in a very charismatic church, we would have those moments of activation almost where it was kind of you would feel the spirit. And I
Mm-hmm.
actually got engaged to a lady way back when because I had felt that voice speaking to me. We got engaged, planned everything. And it was all because I felt the unctioning. I felt the unctioning of the spirit. And then other people were kind of voicing in and speaking to that as well. So I was very, and I still am very open to that. It's just right now it's kind of like there's a filter. Like let's skip.
Well, you're going to learn a little bit more as we unveil this story because there was a lot of learning I had to understand how to decipher those feelings and thoughts, right? That maybe that spirit moving you, maybe you had a misunderstanding. I don't know.
That's part of the journey. It's you give a 15, 14, 13-year-old a Ferrari. They're not going to know how to navigate that.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So it was at that point, and maybe your viewers can think back in their minds to anything like that happening, but you do feel very not normal in that moment, which I did. I went on my trip. I felt him throughout that drive, and then when I got to the condo with mom, my mother-in-law, I call her mom, call him dad. Um, oh, I could hear him, I could feel him
Mm.
in that condo so much more with her. I felt like, my powers were so much stronger when I was with her. Um, and so eventually my husband left. It was Mother's Day weekend. He stuck around. We celebrated with her. Obviously, it was a very tender and raw moment for her because he was no longer there. And so, but he was, which was interesting. And I could hear all the commentary and I can, I'm feeling all these feelings. And I finally share it with her. And I said, "Hey, do you still feel that around here?" Like after he passed, I was just kind of tiptoeing in and she's like, "Of course I do." And I was like it was no big deal. I'm like, "Okay, because we had never talked about anything spiritual or religious. Like I mean, I'm 15 years, 17 years in and I'm 17 years in now, but it was about 15 then. Never talked to her about it. Never talked. I knew dad was a devout Catholic, but mom had walked away from the church like I did many years ago for the same reasons. But we never talked about what she had believed in now. So I was scared to say something. But once I did, she was like, he talks to me all the time. He won't shut up. He's giving me marching orders on how to handle the celebration of life, who to invite, what songs to play. I'm like, oh my God. She goes, he just keeps giving me lists every single day. And I felt so comfortable with her just casual attitude about it and like it was the most natural thing in the world. So I confessed that I'd been hearing him. And she made that completely normal for me, which was so vital in those moments. Because oftentimes when we share this with our loved ones, I've learned through other people, all my followers, um, people don't believe them. Then they tell them they're making it up or whatever, so it gets shut down, and there might be that little spark that happens, but mainly it gets shut down. And so we went on this road trip and there was some magical things that happened there that during that road trip, but the whole time we could both hear dad, both of us hearing the same exact thing.
Mm.
And it was when the tire blew out.
Wow.
um, that we really heard him, and he kind of came and sent somebody to help us because I was panicking, wondering what to do. It was 5 o'clock in the middle of nowhere in this very small town, and if you've ever been in small town America, things really do shut down at 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And so I'm thinking, how the heck am I going to get this tire fixed? And I'm going, well, I have YouTube and Desire. I've never changed a spare, but I can figure it out if I need to. And but then this man showed up right next to us with a utility truck full of tools
Oh, wow.
and offered to help change the tire himself. That's what I mean. It was like these little things that were placed in our path to help us along ours to get her safely home. But I still was unconvinced. I still had the validations I needed. And I asked my sister-in-law, my sister-in-law volunteered it. She said, you could go see Victoria. She was a medium that her and my brother-in-law had worked with before, who she said was very accurate. Victoria didn't know me. I didn't know Victoria. And suddenly an appointment opened up. Apparently she was booked weeks out, but an appointment opened up the next day at 6 p.m. and I was in her office ready to get validated. And so she only had my first name and my phone number. That was it. So I was like, if this girl can tell me dad was on this trip with us, that I'm not going crazy, I'm going to start believing this. I'm going to believe that I'm not crazy because I don't think I'm crazy. Within the first 10 minutes, she was telling me, oh, did your mother-in-law go on a long road trip? I'm talking a really long road trip. And we had just come in from Vegas the day before. So I was like, yes.
Mm.
She wasn't alone. There was a man with her or with you guys. She said, you guys, because I told her we had just come in from Vegas. And she said, well, you weren't alone. There was a man with you. And then started describing dad. That was it. I was like, okay, this is a real thing that's going on. And I started to kind of wrap my head around it a little bit more. And I looked through as many things that as I could get my hands on to understand how to validate it or to ask for things or I don't know, communicate. I didn't know. And a lot of times, if you go onto YouTube or try to find books on audio, I mean, you can hear different experiences through mediums and connections and things like that. But it's like, how do I start doing this? Like, I don't even know. I don't even know where to begin. And so I wound up reading the book Signs by Laura Lynn Jackson. And I wound up stumbling upon that. And that's where I started. I was like, all right, send me a penny, Dad, if you're still here. And make it obvious because you know I'm busy and I'm not going to like know that this penny is like going to be for me. So just send me a penny. Well, 2 days later, I go down to the pool after having a board meeting the night before. I'm the president of the board in my community, so I locked up the night before as the last one out. I go back in the next day at 10 o'clock in the morning. I open the gate to the pool area and a penny drops down from the gate. Like, what? That should have been enough to convince me, but it wasn't. I did not. I was unconvinced. So I made another list. Of course, because this is how my brain works. I just moved the goalpost because I'm like still not trusting. I'm still resisting it all, Patrick, to our whole
Oh,
thing
yeah,
earlier
no, I'm resonating. I'm resonating.
about resistance and surrender. I made a list. A 1979 coin or 1979 penny, a pink lion, a blue softball, and any numbers with the 920 in it because
What in
that's
the
Dad's
world?
birthday.
What?
920 because it was his birthday. So the first item that came in was a week before we left again for Omaha in July for his celebration of life. 1 week before, 1979 penny. I'm sitting there getting ready. I'm trying to give a list to my manager because I run a company and, I'm trying to give her a list of things to do while I'm gone. I go upstairs because everybody's freaking home during this summer and it's like, can y'all just shut up so I can get some work done? Because I work in an open space in the house. But I go upstairs for privacy and I'm staring down at the desk and I'm mid-sentence and I see this penny sitting on the corner of the desk, which wasn't there the day before. I pick it up and it's 1979. Can you imagine what adrenaline goes through your body at that moment? I like have to hang up the phone with her, go to each person in the house, and I'm like, did anybody put this penny on Dad's desk upstairs? Nobody did. They didn't even know what the hell I was talking about. And so I'm like, somebody had to put it there, right? But they had to have the thought, just like somebody had to have the thought to put the penny on the gate for it to fall. It's not like it magically appeared. That's not how it works. Somebody has to have the thought to do that, and then you come across it, right? So it's like, okay, we had this coincidence, and then, now this coincidence, are they going to continue to be coincidences, or am I going to start believing something at some like Victoria was a coincidence and like the tire and like all these things are continuing to happen, and I'm still not convinced. We go to the celebration of life, and afterward, while we're sitting in the office, it was just Mom and I in the office there in Omaha. And I'm sitting in the rocking chair and she's across from me and we're kind of having a heated discussion because truthfully, I felt she was being scammed. So I was trying to put her feet to the fire. All of a sudden, the radio behind me was those older boombox just turns on, just starts playing music behind me. Adele's Easy on Me. Dad's telling me go easy on her.
Hmm.
Don't be so hard on her. I look down and I notice this white bag inside of a box. It's a gift bag. And I ask her, "Do you want me to start opening these things just so we can write thank you notes?" And she said, "Yeah, sure." So I go to the gift bag, I open it up. Now, when I show you this, it was the only gift that was given at the celebration of life. Okay. I asked for a pink lion and a blue softball. They don't exist. You know that, right? This was the gift that was in that bag. The pink lion. It's a little baby cub,
Mm.
a little feline cub. And so I sent that to my brother-in-law because I was like, it's not really like a big lion stuffed ball, stuffed animal, but somebody had to have the thought to give that gift. But why? Why that? Nobody knew about the list except for our family. They kind of thought I was a little bit cuckoo. So, why that? We still don't know the answer to that because it was a childhood friend that lived a few doors down that gave it. We still don't know. We didn't ask him or give him the significance yet of that whole thing. Oh boy, my gardeners are here. I hope that you all, I hope it's like, hope you can't hear it in the background. Um, so that was a turning point. The pink line was the turning point of belief and understanding from the other members of the family who were starting to doubt because I sent that to my brother-in-law, sent a picture of it in text, and he was like, holy shit, Cindy, that's a pink effing lion. I'm like, yeah, that's what I thought. And I just wanted your take on it first before I sent it to everybody else because he was more spiritual than the others. And I thought, am I trying to make this fit? Like I was still trying to talk myself out of it. The blue softball came 2 weeks after we left Omaha. My brother-in-law, the spiritual one I was just talking about, found it. It was a literal blue rubber bouncing ball, bright blue, sitting on the side of the road, abandoned, not where our kids would play. No schools, no parks, no homes nearby, literally under a sign, right under a sign. So dad was putting an exclamation point on the sign, on the signs list.
Look here.
Look
Right here.
here, this is real. So with all my items checked off, 920 I keep to myself, just because it could be a hot debate for some people. So I keep it to myself. But it did come. And so it came between the 79 coin and the pink lion. But I'll stop there because I could keep going unless you guys are just okay with the story. Are you fascinated? Do I have your attention?
Oh, you have my, yes, you
Yeah.
have my, yes.
Okay. Um, does anybody have any questions so far?
Well, I
It's
do. Go
yeah,
ahead.
go for it, Diana. Go for
No,
it.
no, go ahead. Okay. Uh, one of the things that you mentioned, and this is one of those things as our listeners are listening in,
Hmm.
um, and they're going through that process as you're telling the story, that self-doubt. How
Hmm.
how are you able to identify where you are trying to look for the signs versus when the signs are actually there, you
They
know?
just, yeah, they just appear in your purview, just like they did to me. I was alert and aware and keeping my eyes open, but not like searching for it, not like
Mhm.
trying to make it fit. It literally pops in your, it pops in your life.
Mhm.
It becomes undeniable, like right in front of you. So just like that penny fell in front of me, just like the 1979 penny, like I'm sure it was my cleaners who like put it on the desk. They were here the day before, but like why that year? You know what I mean? So it's like I'm sure they had to have the thought to lift up and put it there, but none of us had done it. It's not like my family who, like my husband who kind of knew about the list, but was like not really even considering that it was real. It's not like he was messing with me. You know what I mean? To make it fit. That's not what happened. And then, of course, the other two items, I mean, how they came, it's like you can't deny it. You know, you can't miss it and deny it. So I don't know. I feel like people should not try to make things fit ever. If it's going to naturally be there if it's meant for you. Period. Okay.
And I'm sorry, and you mentioned the 1920. Is that the next portion of your story? You said 920, his
Oh, the
birthday.
920 is not. No, I keep that to myself. I
Oh,
keep that part of it to myself just because it'll charge people up and I don't want
okay.
to, this isn't about being divisive. This is
Okay.
about pulling people together in commonality versus trying to keep them separate. Um, when I was in Omaha, there were other things that were happening there. Dad was telling me to tape the room. And I was like, okay. So I video recorded the room. And when I got around to one side, there's like this big orb blurb that looks like the shape of my face right there. It looks like a thumbprint right up in the corner. And so a half hour later, I'm still feeling him as very much part of the conversation we were all having. He's still there. An hour later, I record again. He's still there. I'm like recording again. But when everyone left, I recorded again. He's no longer there. So it's not like a shadow. It's not like a glare. There's no light right there. There was no light there. But I show it again that night and in the morning when no one else is around and I no longer feel him, he's not there anymore. He was trying to get my attention one late morning after my husband had left to go play golf. He left the stove on. And I'm laying down, I'm hungover after that night. I'm laying down and my head's pounding, and I close my eyes. And at that time, I was seeing things behind my eyelids. I was getting downloads kind of from the spirit world, which is interesting. I can go over that later, but I was seeing things behind my eyes, and one of them was this like red orangish circle. It was this red orangish circle. That's so hard to say. I don't know why. And I was like, what is that? And I was like trying to look with my eyes closed, but with my eyes, like trying to see everything. And then I heard this loud bang. No one was in the kitchen. It was just me in the house. Mom was upstairs depressed in bed. So she wasn't even nowhere in the kitchen. And I looked, got up to look to see if anything fell. Nothing. I went to lay back down. And I felt this anxiety kind of rise up in me. And I felt the need to like, all right, did you not want to be buried today? Like, what's going on? I'm trying to kind of go through the things and have this conversation with him. I feel like, are you trying to tell me something about Dan, his one son? No, I feel like Billy. And then I have the thought to go towards the coffee pot. Did he turn the coffee pot off? So I go to look at the coffee pot, which is right next to the stove, and there's that big red orangish burner because she had an electric stove that I was just seeing behind my eyelids. It was on, and there was like a 12 pack of like Diet Coke sitting right next to it. It was so hot to the touch. I'm like, that was close to exploding, causing more damage. So I turned it off and I was like, oh my God, Dad's really trying to get my attention and trying to let me know he's still here. So it was in those kind of moments that I started to really just gain confidence in myself that this was a thing and this was going to be my new normal. But when I came back to California, I started to my stepdaughter and I were at odds with what was going on. She's very scientific, and now this world was opening up to me. So she started to pull away from me, thinking that I was making it up and I was grieving too much. And we really had a difficult time, and it drove a wedge into our relationship for quite a while. So others who are going through this type of thing too, it can create some strain in your relationships. But that doesn't mean that you're right and they're wrong or vice versa. It just means that people have to have an understanding that although you might be changing to a degree, who you are fundamentally is who you've always been. And so accepting each other for the views that you have is really important. And finding the correct support and community to allow you the space to grow into who you're meant to be or where your calling is or whatever the case may be, you know. I'm talking way too much, aren't I?
No, this is good.
No, this
And
is
what you
good. This
just
is
said
good.
is what's
Okay.
needed is everybody has such different paths, journeys, understandings, interpretations. And
Yeah.
I mean, Catholics and Protestants, they killed each other for hundreds of years because of their differences. But everything you're saying, it resonates, and I'm also a 70s kid, so what? My dad
Yeah.
was also in Vietnam. My dad was
Mhm.
a POW for years, and is I so I've went from a lot of the spiritual to kind of like your sister, the logical, but it's in that middle spot that
Mhm.
we find because I believe in the spirit realm. I believe that if I clap, that energy is still gonna go through these walls. It's gonna continue. That energy doesn't stop. And, that's science. Energy doesn't stop. Our
Yeah.
energy doesn't stop. As I listen to
Einstein
your
said it.
message,
Einstein said it. Energy just changes form. That's
yeah,
it. Period.
yeah. And I list is I and this is where I kind of get on the because I have so many friends that are with right in tune with you, and then here I come like, well, that's just confirmation bias. I'm going to see a pink balloon today, and it may not happen today, but down the road. But I've also been in that position, like, I need a win this year. I like today, I need one win. I just need a win. My business has gone kaput. My son's school is closing, so I'm like, I just need a win. As I'm driving, I saw that this huge pile of wood that has been sitting on the side of the road for half a year that I've called the city about so many times, it was gone. And I was just like, yes, finally. Oh my, I've called the city, I've called the maintenance, I've called HOAs, and it was gone. So to me, I was like, okay, that was determination, perseverance. That was Patrick not giving up. But I could also see that coming from the other side, it's like, this was a blessing. This was my confirmation. This was my penny falling. This was something along those lines.
Mhm.
And that's where I'm always, and I'll say there's a part of it where it's a lot of control. Like we want control, and then when things spiral out for me, my what you call your activation moment was 9/11, when that left such an impression, and I was working
Yeah.
downtown Austin, and that's when I was like, there's a lot more going on than I think, because, growing up, I'm a child of God. I'm blessed going in. I'm blessed coming out. I'm above and not beneath, the head and not the tail. And I was like, how many people said that same thing as they went to the 50th floor that day? And,
Right.
how many people could have had a loved one speak to them, hey, don't go to work today. Hey, and I'd heard a few stories like that. People got stuck in traffic and then they didn't make it to work and they live. But it's kind of one of those like, where do you where do you fall on that to the point where you're just totally like your journey where you can totally surrender to it, that this
So, yeah, when I came back and started working on, I wound up going back to Victoria and saying, "Hey, can you mentor me?" And she had been through two readings with me over the summer in Omaha because I had my husband go see her because he was having a difficult time with the passing of his father.
mm,
And he was getting angry at all of us. And I thought, Dad, you need to talk to him. He's not going to believe me. But if you go to her and just talk to your son, maybe it'll open him up a little bit more. And of course, that's exactly what happened. He went in, Dad came right through. It was only Dad
mm,
and was able to help heal him. But I am such a control freak, Patrick, that I totally understand where you're coming from, that I had to work on the resistance part, and it was a slow evolution between September and March of last year, actually May of last year,
wow.
where I had to forgive. I had to learn to forgive. I had to understand the collective consciousness. I had to still I had done a lot of healing up until the point where Dad, see, I have a belief that because I had done enough healing on myself, Dad could see that from the other side and was able to grab my attention. Do you know what
Mm.
I mean? It was like I was open enough without understanding this side at all. I had never gone to a medium. I had never even considered this a thing. I literally, I believe in God, I believe in Jesus, but like I didn't like how the church was doing things, especially to children. And there is a story there. But the forgiveness piece was big. It was when my stepfather, who had molested some
Mm.
family members of mine came through to apologize.
Oh,
That
wow.
I understood that uh, how could evil exist in heaven? I had to kind of go through that thought, right? Where it's like, we play a part here, and we're all souls who are divine there and good ultimately, but we play these roles here because there it's a completely different frequency. It's all love. Imagine living in a society where everyone was happy and there was all this love, zero conflict, and everyone just got along. I mean, I think there was even a book made about that. I can't remember what it's called, but like that's what it's like there. So, in order to learn, you have to have polarity. You have to have the opposite of love in order to truly see the light and in order to truly understand love. And so, I feel like that's why we have this conflict down here. And we're supposed to learn from it and then go back. That's what I now believe after everything I've been through and after everything I've learned since then. But when he came to apologize and take accountability through me, through like four other mediums, I was like, okay, I'm going to work on this. And I understood the oneness and I was able to forgive very easily, which forgiveness isn't saying it was okay what he did. It was saying I'm releasing that 50-pound backpack off my back that I was carrying. That rope that I was holding on to and him and my mom on the other side that we were doing this tug of war with. I went, I'm not gonna, I'm surrendering. I'm not resisting it anymore. I'm not going to play the tug of war game anymore. I'm going to release myself. And if y'all want to, there's nothing there to pull against, you're going to be fine too, you know? And that's kind of how I let it go. It was very simple for me once it happened. I think we overcomplicate it, but it was very simple once
That's
it did.
so that's one thing I want to dig in. Do
Yeah.
you think that approach would put the burden on the offended? And so, like a specific example I'm thinking is,
Mhm.
the poor lady who was shot, in Minnesota.
Oh man, yeah.
Her partner now has the burden to forgive ICE, forgive that agent. And let's say they're both believers, they both have positive energy, and they go to the celestial.
Yeah.
It's up to her, though, to release that or hold on to it for all eternity. Like, you screwed
It's
this
totally her
up.
free will. It's her journey. Yeah, it's her free will. She has to choose.
Mm.
And
So
because
yeah, okay.
you're here to learn something, Diana's here to learn something, I'm here to learn something, and so is that woman.
Yeah. Because that
I
goes with the
think
whole like philosophical, then like, can you get justice by letting go of the need for justice? And
justice and forgiving are two different things. There can be accountability for one's actions here,
okay.
okay? Because we have certain rules and laws in place. And so when you don't follow them, yeah, there'll be consequences. That's how a society stays sane
Mhm.
and healthy. But like her herself can forgive him without saying, I think it's great that you did that crime. Like all is forgiven that way. It's no, I forgive you for being the weak piece of that you are, okay? And didn't actually physically move your body out of the way for a car going 2 miles an hour, okay, past you. You could like literally walk
Step
around,
one step
step
back.
aside like any other normal police officer would. But I forgive you for being that weak person. I forgive you for your faults and I forgive you for this action. However, you are going to have to pay the consequences back to society because we as Americans in this society require that. And I'm going to give you the opportunity to do what you did not give my partner the opportunity for, which if she was resisting, this is my opinion, if she was resisting and or interfering with some sort of investigation, that isn't the penalty for it. Sorry, it's not. That's not what we decide as a society. She should have had her day in court. So that's my opinion on it if you really want to know.
Yeah, no, this and it gets so much bigger because it's like when we when we're guided by the Spirit, whether it's
Yeah.
the Lord, Jesus, when we're guided by that, it can do good. Like it gave you the confirmations you needed, the penny, the pink uh
Yeah.
tiger.
Line.
But this is where and I think other people and why there's such a huge deconstruction right now in Christianity is because we see that and then we see it explode to the point where Trump is God's messenger. God has called Trump and the prayers and the whole shakeup in the churches with pedophilia, where we've had very people in our own circle who are accused, but no, that's the enemy coming against us. Until justice is served, witnesses are called, and it's like, oh, they were lying. And so people who were led by the Spirit believed it to the point where they followed this person until American justice came in and said, whoa, ho, ho, there's a limit. And I think that's the friction that I have is that I want to believe, but I'm also very aware because I got caught up so much in the Lord, I need a sign. All right, I'm taking that sign and then oh well, maybe it wasn't supposed to be. And
So here's the thing. I think everything is in steps, right?
mm,
It is much easier for us to believe that God is a being. It is much easier for us to believe that, I mean, the construct of the Bible and who Jesus was to God, to all of us. I mean, it's easier to believe that. But the question that I put to you, and something each person has to individually answer in their own heart, not me telling you. I don't want to tell you. There's been enough people telling you what to do your whole life, telling you what is and what isn't, and what you feel is right in your heart. But what I believe to be true is that God is everything, not a being, um, light energy. Okay. That one big thing. And so that one big thing that I believe him to be, okay, we're at 11:30, right? Okay. Just want to make sure before I start going off into a diatribe. That one big thing, let's call it the ocean for this particular conversation, okay? Let's say God is the ocean. It's vast, it's wide, it takes up 95% of this earth. And in that context, if I were to be a part of the ocean, right? Be a part of God, God is within me, or he is me. It is me. Okay. If I take a cup out of the ocean, okay, now I have a cup of ocean water here. I am now separated from the original source, right? But
mm,
I'm still ocean water. Now I'm going to take a dropper and take some ocean water out of that cup. But what's in the dropper?
fill the ocean.
Ocean one.
Yeah.
Ocean water. It's just now 2 times removed from its source.
Mm,
But when you put the dropper of ocean water back into the cup of ocean water and return the ocean water in the cup back to the ocean, it's now whole. And that's what happens, in my opinion, when we pass. We just go back to the original source. And so in that source, we're all part of it. We're one. Universe. Uni meaning one verse, oneness. Collectively, or the collective consciousness that we're all a part of, we're all moving as one. There's no separation. And so, how I've come to understand and know this is in that no separation. We do have the separation here in they call it the 3D, but I just say here in this lifetime is experience on earth, whatever you want to call it, in this meat suit we're in. We're experiencing, we're souls having a human experience. And that is something that you might all be familiar with, hearing that term. And if that's the case, then we return back to our original source, but we can't be separate from it. So if I am God, meaning you are God and Diana is God, because we're all part of the oneness, right? We're not separate from it, so we have to be it. That means all these bad people are it too, including the good people. But they're
mm,
having their experience here.
mm.
And their experience is their experience to experience for whatever their soul's purpose is. Does that make sense? And it's for the collective. That's my understanding of it. I hope I answered your question. I feel like I went off on.
No, and that's we a lot of people we forget about that Judas was divinely called to what he was doing in the Bible.
Right.
And nobody wants to be Judas, I guess, and nobody wants to suffer, but it is the balance. It is the energy, the negative, the positive, the
It's all of it. And here's the thing is sometimes people feel righteous because they've learned a certain thing and they think that that thing, like let's just say the Bible, is the only way and it's the only thing. But let me ask you this, do you think God is unconditionally loving,
yeah.
Diana?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Okay, I
Sometimes I
said
wish he wasn't, but yeah.
unconditional. Unconditional means no conditions.
Mhm.
No conditions. So under no circumstance would he not love you. Correct or not correct? I mean, we all agree to that, right? So, like, why are we saying you must be like repenting your sins? What sins? Why would he judge you? See if that makes sense to you, because that never made sense to me in church. Never, never, ever, ever. It was totally contradictory to me. The other thing is, if God is unconditional, which I believe to be true, God, source, whatever, I believe we're all part of the oneness. We're all part of that love frequency. I've only felt love come through. They all want, when your loved one comes through, I mean, there's a bigger explanation to this, but I don't want to go too woo, okay? I just want to be very, very first starter concept and have people come to the determination themselves because I'm not trying to convince anyone. If what I says moves you and it makes sense, look inside yourself. Don't come seek answers. And you can ask questions, but like, I'm not going to be somebody who's going to mislead somebody or take somebody down a bad rabbit hole. But I just want people to start asking questions because those things never made sense to me. And in that
Mhm.
context, they think that if their loved one committed suicide or their loved one committed a crime, they're going to hell. I just haven't found that to be true. They all come through with these loving messages, and I definitely don't feel anything demonic. I don't believe that for a minute. I believe that men would tell you that to put fear in you, and I believe that fear is how they control people.
Mhm.
And so, if you want to think that through for yourself and how that applies to you, I'm pretty sure you're not getting checked at the door for your religious card when you get there. I'm pretty sure we're all welcome. So, regardless of whatever religion you believed in. And so, I just feel like it just becomes righteousness. And I don't feel like that is effective at all for our society. And I don't think that that's good for the individual. Because I feel, Patrick, to kind of go back to your broader question, we are being conditioned to become desensitized
Mhm.
with all the things that are happening now. Why? Why would that be? That's my question. So don't become desensitized. Like, why is it a blasphemy if you had any sort of negative reaction to Charlie Kirk being unalived versus this Minnesota woman?
People don't think for themselves or
No,
they
but
think
the thing is people are being desensitized for a reason.
and that's the scary thing too.
That's
Wow.
exactly right. So people need to start asking the question. They better start going inside for answers, not for leaders, because leaders are trying to steer them in the wrong direction, in my opinion. The answers can be found within. Jesus said, the kingdom of God is within you. That's what he said. And I feel like if people like lived a little bit more like Jesus, they would be a lot kinder
Oh dear.
and they
Yeah.
wouldn't be led astray. And so anytime I come up with a question that I need to have, like the big question, one of the questions, this sounds so stupid, but one of the questions that I kind of had was like, do I become a vegetarian or not? Because my big thing was I'm 53. shouldn't be eating all these carbs. Get a little round in my tummy, and I just spent the last year and a half taking 35 pounds off by eating mainly protein. Um, so I was a little worried about that, and I just decided to land on, and this was my default answer for anything, what would Jesus do? Basically, anything that I question, what would Jesus do? And then that is my answer to how to behave. So, I don't know. What do you think? What do you guys think?
I'm just gonna say this. I think it's just what you have is that you think, and I think that's what's missing in so much of America. So that is just why I'm like, thank you, thank you. You just whatever journey you're on, just think and be able to back up why you believe what you believe. And to that, I salute you. Kudos because
Thanks.
that's what's missing so much. And okay, so yeah, Deanna, I'll let you take it.
No, I agree. You hit a lot of points that right now, as a society, particularly because we're in the United States, one of the things that we are, what Patrick also mentioned, you mentioned, is that we have to think for ourselves and
Hmm.
and question and not accept things freely and accept these answers. And that's what's lacking. And I think that if we, I think because people have this perception, because you have a certain position, a level of position, you have
Hmm.
more knowledge, you
Hmm.
have because you have a certain degree or something, or certain status or wealth, you are
Hmm.
smarter, you know better, I'm to follow you. And the fact of the matter, it shouldn't be that way. And we need to question. And that's what makes our society better, when we start questioning, we're putting people accountable. So I love what you said, and I think that's one of those um in tapping into ourselves and listening to our intuition.
Mhm.
And you started listening to your intuition, your journey,
Hmm.
and you had a beautiful support system there that supported you. Um, One thing that I'm kind of curious that I wanted to ask you,
Hmm.
as far as like when you start hearing your voices, or when you're in your moment of when you're connecting, when you're in
Hmm.
that moment, um, does it always happen? Is there a moment where it doesn't come through for whatever reason?
Hmm.
Mhm.
There was a couple of times, and usually that's my fault, meaning that I wasn't in a good headspace, or wasn't physically, or I don't know, something distracted, stress, or whatever. It's happened twice to me, but it can happen. And so in that moment, I'll just reschedule the person, apologize, let them know that for whatever reason, either it's me, and she was like, no, it might be me. And it may have been, I just always take responsibility for it, because I feel like for me, I need to prep my client. I need to have them open up. I feel like we have this pipe that goes down the middle of our body, and it just needs to be completely cleared so that, well, white light can just shoot right up visually, and it opens them up. And then I get information like super easy from them. And then suddenly I'll be aware that there's somebody else kind of coming in. So that just took practice. And I fumbled along the way. I mean, I misunderstood things coming in, because I would get visuals. Like I would get visuals all the time. I talked about the downloads. Like downloads were happening to me. What that kind of looked like is I would get up to go to the bathroom between 1 and 3 in the morning. And I would come back, close my eyes, and all of a sudden, bam, there would just be these people in like bluish white light. And they were like coming in, boom, 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 boom. And I'm like trying to kind of keep up with it. But then they would slow down. And then the energy light would just kind of, I don't know, it was beautiful. It was just amazing to watch. And I'm like, just so stunned by it all.
Mm.
Maybe a week later, I'd get all words that would download. And then 3 days later, I'd get all these numbers that would download like a code. And so when that happened, it was just like, wow. But there would always be this show of light and energy light.
Okay.
It was alive. I don't know how to explain it unless you ever did it. So that kind of started. Um, I guess that kind of started it.
Okay.
But then I would fumble, like I'll see something. So how it works for me is I'll get an image, right?
Mhm.
For example, Patrick, I'm seeing when I see him, I start to see a baseball and bat and glove. Okay. So it tells me that, I mean, I feel like he played baseball, his son plays baseball, if he's got a son or will play baseball, I don't know. But I would just kind of, I'm just making this up, just sort of something that kind of goes along that way. And then I might be like, I feel like, sorry, Patrick, can I read you?
Sure.
I feel like
Yes, this will
talking
be
about an
like a
injury or
quick call.
something. There was like an injury at some point that may have kind of worried you. Do you understand that?
I've had many injuries, like physically dancing type of injuries.
And I feel like if you have a son or a daughter, I don't know what you have, but it feels like a son to me. Do you
Mhm.
understand that?
Yeah, well, yeah, little
I
4-year-old.
feel like you would be very concerned about this son being injured playing sports or something. And so I would say something like that to Patrick. Now, I know nothing about Patrick at all. He'll tell you that. We just met today. But I will get this information. Did you want to validate that or am I misunderstanding?
I mean, he has a bicycle that he's been practicing. So
No, but
like,
if he were to play sports, would it be concern of yours that he would get injured? That's what I'm saying. I have a fear of my son getting injured.
no, I don't. I'd
Okay.
fear him
So
not.
see how that works? I'm misunderstanding the information. So I just have to peel it back a little bit more. And maybe it's like Patrick's had so many injuries. He's explained that maybe there's a fear there or something. And we just have to
Couldn't keep
continue
up
to
if he did
explore it.
sports. I couldn't keep up with him.
Oh, couldn't.
At my
Okay.
age, I'm 46 with a 4-year-old. So it's
Okay,
like,
that's where the fear comes in, you see? So it's just my misunderstanding of it. And that's easy to do when you're
Mhm.
reading. But and we would keep going and I would then as I read him, I would become aware of like a grandfather on the other side who maybe wants to come in and talk about watching you play baseball when you were younger or something like that. I think I'm making that part up or
and
not.
is it kind of a conversation like where they'll kind of give you the feedback and then you kind of reinterpret or
So, yes. So the yeses and nos are important and not feeding the person that's reading because I shouldn't be asking questions. I mean, I was just sort of doing this for an example or to showcase kind of how it works. But I saw the baseball bat, I saw the ball, and I saw the glove, but I was feeling sun.
which so if I kind of process this because I did play baseball for middle school or something. So baseball, I sucked at it. I did get hit by the ball. That's the only time I got on base. So I'd get hit. So if I take it from that perspective, I'm like, well, yeah, that would really suck if my son got hit by a ball. I'm
Well,
leaning.
yes, but there's I think we peeled back the fear layer was yours of not being able to kind of keep up, but I was feeling the fear. It's just because I got the sun first, I just misunderstood the fear being directed at him versus the fear coming from you. You know, I just misunderstood it for a second, and that's okay.
Which fear and sports, if I step back from an objective perspective, my mom has always been fearful of me breakdancing, breaking, never spin on your head, never get on your neck. You're gonna break your neck. So I was like,
And it just might be passed down fear, but I could have broken that down further if I would have if I were in a private session with you, I would have done that. But I don't want to disclose too much of your personal stuff, like on a podcast, obviously. But
oh,
I'm just saying that that's how it works, is I would start to feel around that.
mhm.
The feelings I have are based on my own experience. So my experience tells me I have children, so I was feeling child in relation to him. And then fear, I just misunderstood it being fear of his son getting injured because I felt an injury to Patrick when he was younger. But his injury isn't just, he's not worried about his son. So we just backed up and then understood and got the clarifier. And then I would go on, is how it works. So it's just a combination of seeing something, feeling something, and then kind of using my experiences in life to then help me understand. Because if I get something like there was a reading where I was doing on somebody and I was getting my mom. Like my mom kept coming to mind. And during that reading, I was understanding that this woman put her men before her children.
Mm.
Okay. And like this was a common theme for her. And so, anyway, it's how the son who was coming through kind of got hooked on drugs and alcohol. And so, like, he was explaining this story about him and his mom and like what happened. And we got to the root of her pain, and I was able to help her come to alleviate her of the guilt that she had been carrying around for so long. And that's what spirit does. That's not demonic or evil. That's coming through to help somebody heal so the collective conscience can elevate or rise. Okay? And that's what they're doing. So, anyway, blah 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 blah
I
blah.
do want to be cognizant of time. I don't know if you had a hard stop,
Yeah.
but I
No,
just
no, no, it's
yeah.
fine. Like maybe 5 more minutes, or we can kind of wrap things up. But hopefully
Just
that
want to
helps you
confirm,
understand.
like, in exactly what you just said. That's why I'm open to this. My wife is, she's going the way of the woo. My
Mhm.
friend going the way of the woo, and I'm like, if it's helping them, why would I be like, oh no, the Bible says, if the Bible works for you, cool. If the Quran works for you, cool. If we have good friends who are Baha'i, that works for you, good. Praise God, we live in a country that that's how it's supposed to be.
That's
That's
exactly right. Not, trying to force people into one
Mhm.
religion or the
Oh,
other, you know.
which
It's
they are really, we're here in Texas, and dear heavens, they are trying to
yeah.
cram it
That's
down our
yeah,
throats.
that's too bad. It should just be an invitation,
Yeah.
which is what we offer. It's just an invitation, and so it has to feel right inside of you. But that being said, there was something you said. Oh, shoot. Sorry. I'm having a brain fart for a second. What was I
It'll
going
come
to
up at
say?
three
You
three in
just
the
said
morning.
something. I know it's going to hit me later. I swear to you. This whole journey has been amazing for me. It's been life altering. This is definitely a calling. I have had to work very hard at understanding this language and how it comes in symbols and feelings and through our senses. And I don't have like people call it like, an index book of signs inside your mind. Like this is my da 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 da. That's not it. That's I have a couple, but like mostly I just go off of what I feel on whatever's coming in. And so I let that just kind of dictate me. But normally I'm usually correct. And again, one thing I might be off on one single misunderstanding, but that's not. Did you find that that was for you, Patrick? Would that have dissuaded you from understanding what I had to say?
No, I mean, so as they always say in the church, chew the meat and spit out the bones. So I take what's relevant, and from what you were just saying, I see like sports injuries, and how can that apply? How
Yeah,
can
and then don't be afraid. Don't have fear of not just the injury, but also your ability to share in the experience with your son.
yeah.
Okay? Because we are here to experience. And so for you, that would be the message,
Yeah.
right? Don't let your fears dictate. And truly, one of the last things in my book I write about is choosing love or fear.
Mm.
A lot of our responses will be in one of those two categories.
Mhm.
And you have a choice. You can respond in fear, and that's anger, grief, sadness, depression, frustration, whatever, anxiety, or you can respond in love. And in love, it can be grief, it can be happiness and joy and excitement and peace.
That's a
And
whole other
so,
podcast there. That's yeah.
It is.
Sometimes the way to love is to embrace the grief, and that's one thing I.
exactly right. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And part of moving through grief is to love. So you choose.
And then yeah,
Um,
fear, darkness, dark side. Thank you, Master Yoda. Okay,
We
sorry.
need it. We need the darkness to see the light.
we do.
We do.
We do. Cindy, I know that, I mean, I think we could talk for hours because you
Yes.
have there's so much to really dive into and really learn because this is not just a 60-minute podcast to
No,
learn though. This is multiple episodes or multiple, or you can do like a whole podcast. In fact, you have a podcast,
I
correct?
do. Yes.
In
Mhm.
fact, you do. One of the things that I know that we're getting really close at time, and I want to be respectful because you have a session coming up.
Thank
Um,
you.
um, how can our listeners contact you if they want to hear more or learn more about you, or they can reach out? How can they reach out to you?
They can reach out to me at csmuckmediumship@gmail.com. I'm on all the socials under Pink Lion Mediumship, but mainly I hang out in TikTok because that's where my following is.
You're more hip than I am. I don't
I
even do
can do lives there. I have a community of people, the Pink Line community, where people feel safe and comfortable talking about their grief and their loved ones and their experiences with signs and communication with their loved one. So that's where I'm mostly at. Um, but I have the Pink Line podcast. The book's available,
this.
on Amazon. So feel free to reach out. I'm happy to help anyone.
Absolutely. I always tell my guests that come on here that now that you've been on a Life and In Between, our
Yeah.
podcast, you are now part of the familia. And
Yay.
so, and any time that you would like to come back, and I'm sure that our listeners are going to want more of this. I want more of this. Um,
See, maybe not. I don't know.
They will. They will. No, this is
They
good.
will. They will. I'm telling you. But they will. But yeah, you're more than welcome to come anytime and join us again, and we can have some nice coffee, or we can drink like some. I have the
You
coconut
got a whole
drink.
coconut. What in the world?
Yes, I drink my loco. So that's what I've been drinking here.
You
Um,
bougie. You
but
bougie.
That's awesome.
but but thank you again. I am so
Thank
happy
you.
and for joining us. And for our listeners, for those that are just tuning in for the first time, please don't forget to subscribe. Patrick, please tell our
Find
audiences.
us. Look for us. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors, because we have a lot of guests on here that are from different journeys. I mean, we've had everything from CEOs to mediums to we haven't had any dancers. So yeah, we're all
You
over it.
have. I'm a dancer too.
Oh, good. Okay, we have a dancer slash medium. So what? So find us wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify. We're on YouTube as well, Facebook, wherever you find us. Drop us a like, reach out to us. We want to hear from you and see what you would like to hear as well.
Yes.
Peace.
Peace and love, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Ciao.